Well, welcome back this fine morning here at Barcelona for the GT Cup Europe Championship, round 5, as we head into qualifying 2 to build up the grid ahead of race 2 later on this afternoon. And it was a busy day yesterday. Certainly some winners that we would have figured would feature up at the very top. But just a little reminder as to how the temps look. Slightly less warm than yesterday, but obviously we're only in the morning stage at the moment, but the humidity has risen, lo and behold, and the rain is now falling, which I must say is not something we can actually visually see from the commentary box. I have to say, Ewan and I were scratching our heads when the wet track and lights on was announced via race control here this morning. We weren't anticipating the rain until 10 o'clock, and already we've got a spinner, and that is the new Lamborghini. Of course, this morning being driven by Jorge Cabezas after Annie Frosio took qualifying yesterday in the morning for aggressive Team Italia. But now rejoining the circuit, no harm, no foul. So no dramas to kick off the start of this qualifying session. But yesterday, as the dust settled after a busy first race, it was Davide Lorini and Tommaso Levati who would go on to take victory and land their first wins of the season. Then pushing Lorini now onto 30 points this campaign, with 17 points now in the hands of Tommaso Levati. But no changes in terms of our current championship leaders. It is Ian Rodriguez and Luca Franca, who, despite pulling together their worst result of the season so far, it doesn't go against them. They only cooked 2 points yesterday, but nevertheless, they are on top of the championship, leading by 11 points to Ludovico Longoni and Pietro Armani, who finished second at the close of the race yesterday. George Morgan here in the commentary box once again. Joining me once again this morning is the one, the only Ewan Dunlop. And Ewan, it's a soaker out there.
Do you know what? This has really thrown us, hasn't it? Because we've been looking out the window for the last half an hour or so in the commentary box, and it's looked gloomy, but absolutely fine. And I think the deceiving thing is our windows here over the start-finish straight lean right away from us, so we do not get any rain whatsoever on the windows. However, if I look down into the paddock, you can see dry patches under the parked cars. It is most definitely raining across the entire track now. I would class it as drizzle. Right now, it's not sort of heavy rain, but as we've seen already, it will make a difference, and that's a lovely slow-mo. And that is heavy rain. Wherever on the track that is that turn 6, 7?
Oh, it's definitely coming down. I mean, one thing I will say, no activity from the wipers as such, but you can see it just lifting up over the Porsche, but maybe just the sheer speed. Some drivers obviously opt to using the wipers, some currently aren't. There's the 43 Porsche just making its way down through the latter couple of corners.
We've got a car coming into the pits already, maybe to change tyres early on, potentially. It's the 91. Yeah. That is the Fames team, Franca and Rodriguez.
Current championship leader coming in. We've already got a car off as well. That's the 56. That's Diego Nunez, of course, partnering Peter Furter, as he has done all season long. The dual Brazilian lineup. Of course, LMR with 2 cars here this weekend. Also, they have a car that's currently fighting for the AM Championship at the moment, and the red flag has been called out by race control as they look to gather the car that is stricken in the gravel, obviously all due to safety. In fact, we can now see a replay just scuttling off into that gravel trap, and that car is well and truly beached. And so therefore the marshals waving the red flags to bring it end. Just premature, well, say premature, it is premature I suppose in a way, but still at the same time, just to bring a slight stopper in the session to a grinding halt. We've got, of course, 3 classes lined up here this season. Of course, we've introduced a silver class here for this campaign. There is the 22 of Ludovico Longoni. Of course, we'll be partnering Pietro Armani again for race 2 this afternoon after a gallant display yesterday. Armani, of course, finishing fast right at the end of the starting fast right at the beginning of the session. Longoni then had to obviously bring it home. Franvel Bugliotti, though, currently with the fastest time on the board, but we haven't had anything so far that registers, certainly in the initial. Just actually looking on our timing screens right now, the names have not changed from yesterday, so we'll keep you posted as to who's in the cars. In fact, it's not Longoni driving this morning, because as I suspected, it was Armani who finished the race yesterday for that pairing. So it is Armani in the car today, because remember, we had the first drivers go out for Q1. It's then the turn of the second drivers to go out and set a lap in qualifying ahead of race 2 this afternoon. There is the 57. Of course, Nicholas van Durendonk qualifying this one yesterday. This time it's Nathan Brawns who will be taking qualifying this time. Of course, a team that did relatively well yesterday in bringing home 6 points to their quarry, and it now pushes them up to 30 as opposed to the 24 that they currently arrived with. Of course, Dieter Schweppes, Leandro Martin still leading the title race at the moment in AM class. It's been a strong season for them. Yesterday, though, was their worst point-scoring race this season. Of course, in historical stats, their worst result has generally been second. They finished second in nearly every single race, bar 2, where they'd won races at Spa-Francorchamps in race 2 and also Paul Ricard race 1. Well, this is the first time they have not featured inside the top 3 in the AM classification, so therefore their worst result recorded. But they had a really tough weekend on arrival here, because coming into free practice, they crashed the car right at the start of the weekend, had to request a new one all the way from Portugal, which of course set them back, and they did not have any free practice time after that. They stayed in the garage. They had the car there, they just had to tune it. It takes time, and naturally they weren't able to go out for the remaining 2 sessions that they had available to them. So they were doing a lot of their acclimatization at this circuit during qualifying yesterday.
Yeah, and that 3 points, that was equivalent to 5th place in AM in the race yesterday. However, with the dropped point situation come the end of the season, it won't be too damaging. Currently scheduled to drop 9 points. However, they lead by 16, and H. de Mello in 2nd place right now will not drop any points. So regardless, they would still be leading the championship with 3 races to go. Of course, race 2 today and a couple in Monza in a couple of weeks' time. There is the car being cleared from the track, so there shouldn't be a too long delay whatsoever. The Nunes Verta Porsche 992 in the LMR Motorsport car, and it's driving itself away, which is always good to see. But it is going to go onto the back of a wagon by the looks of things. Being guided, or no, just off the track.
It's being guided by the marshals just to take the curb access route. Obviously, I think they're just cautious about allowing gravel to sprinkle onto the,
and there it goes,
the track surface. They're just trying to ensure that as little makes its way onto the track as possible. So just saves the cars when they go back to green, and also saves the marshals time, I suppose, in cleaning it up. Because it's amazing how much distance these cars cover in such a short space of time. And obviously the marshals do a fantastic job very often. You could just see them just sprinkling off the back of the car. You could just see them chipping away from the rear. They sit on the sills and on the rear of the car. You just see it all just dancing off the rear of the Porsche. The 56 one, of course, the Peter Verta, Diego Nunes car. But good to see it now back in working order and out onto the track. It will now join the rest of the grid inside the pit lane before they go back green again. Obviously, we await race control's advice on when they will be going green once more. But it certainly was a action-packed return to racing yesterday. Of course, we witnessed, as we said already, Rodriguez Franca, championship leaders, not necessarily pulling together their best result this season. I will say this is actually their worst result since Hockenheim race 2, where, of course, they managed to only net 4 points on that occasion apiece. And, of course, elsewhere, it was a decent day in the office for Lars Zanin, Goncalo Fernandez as well. They're now up to 66 points apiece at the moment, 10 points added after yesterday's result, which slots them in just behind Paul Meyer and Laura van den Hengel by 1 solitary point now. Of course, they were together in the standings technically. It was 3rd for Paul Meyer and Laura van den Hengel overall. Lars Zanin and Goncalo Fernandez in 4th, but that gap now is down to a single point after yesterday's result. Davide Scanicchio, Fabio Babini also picking up 4 points overall as well, now moving up to 35. Now a point behind Leandro Martins and Dieter Schweppes in the overall championship. Of course, they're not necessarily fighting for overall success. It's all about the Pro-Am title race as far as they're concerned, which Laura van den Hengel and Paul Meyer are currently leading, taking 3 points yesterday. Obviously, the worst result for that, Burgers Motorsport pairing. Paul Meyer, of course, was astonishing in qualifying yesterday, as he always is over 1 lap. Davide Scanicchio, Fabio Babini now, though, after cooping up double the amount of points that Laura van den Hengel and Paul Meyer did in yesterday's race, it now means they're only, at the moment, 5 points apart with 3 races to go. So that Pro-Am Championship is very much up for grabs as it stands. And elsewhere, of course, the AM title race still very much in the hands of Dieter Schweppes and Leandro Martins, but anything can happen in the final 3 races. So titles to go all the way to Monza, as we love to see. That's what this championship's all about. You can just see the Michelin umbrellas out in force as the teams go to work in changing the tyres. No question they're going to get the wets ready. I do think they must have gone out initially on the slick tyres, perhaps not anticipating the rain to be as heavy as it was at this time in the morning, because generally the consensus was, Ewan, 10 o'clock would be when we see the wet weather come down.
But when we look out our window now to our left-hand side to the far end, corner number 1, you can now see the rain in the air. It is coming down a lot harder than it was even 10 minutes ago. We're still going to get 16 minutes of qualifying in, a few cars making their way onto track. Currently leading, an 8-minute 47 by Franvel Bugliotti. That will change. Look at that weather.
Try and pick that out.
Wow.
The lights on all the cars and the wipers working more furiously now. That is a clear indicator as to where we sit weather-wise, folks at home. So whilst you're all snuggled up in your homes, I'm sure, clutching your blankets with your hot drinks in hand, watching everything unfold this morning here in the GT Cup Europe Championship, let's spare a thought for the poor drivers that are now going to have to make their way through this weather here at Barcelona. You just hear it thundering down as they make their way through turns 1 and turns 2, and it's going to apply an extra little bit of needle, a little bit of test, well, a big test for this morning on Sunday.
That view down the start-finish straight now is absolutely incredible, isn't it? Just going to lean over and look out our window here. It is absolutely bolting down. Yeah, this has come a lot earlier than expected. We are also anticipating thunderstorms, and look at this, the heavens are absolutely opening here in Barcelona. You won't say that too often, but my goodness me, there are going to be puddles forming very shortly around this circuit. And fingers crossed we can just get through 15 minutes of slow driving. Goodness knows what's going to be the sort of qualifying times here. You can barely put your foot down, can you? This is going to be who can bring it home safest. It's, as I literally just said, you've got to get your car back in one piece. Maybe qualifying is less important, and getting that car back into the garage and ready for racing later on today is going to be most important.
We're just having a look at the spin here now for Nicolas Salenstina's Longin's car. Of course, now driving for Q1 Track Racing. Oh my goodness, just reversing into oncoming traffic. Good. It was really good that the car's preempted that he was making that decision. But no harm, no foul there indeed. But barely any visibility, as you can just see it out there on circuit. We just see the shining beam of light come at us at turn 10 on the run down through towards the very progressive left-hander on the run up through towards turn 11. Just see the amount of spray that's coming off the wheel arches here as well. That is a huge amount of water in a short space of time, and no question, race control have issued a red flag for the session as well. So that will bring a stopper to qualifying here right now, and this could heavily impact the schedule today as well, because we've got a full day of racing this afternoon as well.
We have got a packed day. I'm glad I don't make those decisions. 2 cars now.
That's the Burgers Motorsport car. Yeah, that's the Peter Furter and Diego Nunez.
So Laura van den Hengel. Wow. Yeah, just get them back in safely.
Yeah, I think at the moment it's just a little bit too much for the drivers to handle. Just look at the amount of surface water there is there. I mean, I'm not just talking about minor amounts that you can aquaplane on. I mean, this is almost a river we're developing here at Barcelona right now. The heavens have opened here at Montemelo, but good to see the drivers just working their way around safely. Laura van den Hengel, of course, championship leader in the Pro-Am class alongside Paul Meyer. And they say that weather is the great equaliser. Well, it definitely is the case here and now as she makes her way over the crest. Naturally, the water's going to pool, in a massive amount when you reach a flat surface. So as they climb the hill at Verth Curve, you can imagine all that water that's sitting at the top at Campsa is just drifting downwards and just seeping through the bottom. So therefore, that's where the drivers are collecting so much through their wheel arches at that lowest point of the course. It is going to be a wet day, that's for sure. We preempted this, and this is just a slow-mo of that said amount coming off the wheel arch. Just look at how much already is starting to pool up out there on circuit. And the 33 of Franvel Bugliotti making his way through it, and the Porsche certainly being what it is, the real wheel drive car. Probably, one of your best friends in these scenarios, I would say, though it does help if you've got that traction control capability just to get your car around. But even in these conditions, it can be extremely testing. The flags are all beaming red, though, so you can just see them blinking on the left on the LED boards that we have here around the Barcelona circuit. And the car's now heading into the garages to basically, I suppose, hit the snooze button for the time being until we can go back again. But the question is, will these conditions break down a little bit?
I am just going to check the weather forecast right now. Another update. So we have got today, I mean, right now, it's only meant to be 20% chance of rain in the area. And it wasn't really now till 1 o'clock when the thunderstorms came in that it got above 50% chance or 50% likelihood of rain. But the cars coming into the pit lane now, it is like they're driving through a river between the start-finish and the entrance under the podium. They are pushing water out left, right and centre by meters. It's like a little a boat driving through water. It's absolutely incredible how quickly this has appeared, because we were walking through the paddock less than an hour ago.
We did,
and it was absolutely fine. And yes, there was a beautiful sunrise in the distance out to the east as well.
It was actually a really pleasurable drive in, I have to say. I mean, I honestly thought, I thought, well, maybe we won't see the rain today. Maybe it will pass over, but just literally as if we hit that switch, it just all started. Obviously, qualification, the GT confirmation that GT Cup qualifying 2 has been suspended. So information will come soon, folks. We'll keep you posted as time draws on. But in these conditions, obviously, there's not a lot you can do in these situations. So do hang fire. We will keep you posted as to when we will be able to go back qualifying again. In the meantime, obviously, whilst we take a little bit of a break here at the Circuit of Barcelona, Catalonia, of course, the circuit that first opened back on the 10th of September 1991, over 34 years ago. We've enjoyed many years of fantastic racing at this location here in Spain. Of course, home of the Spanish Grand Prix ever since 1991. We, of course, have also raced here over the many years that the GT Cup Europe Championship has been racing at this circuit. 2019 now was of course, the first ever race that we had in this series. And, of course, it was Hans-Peter Kohler and Eduardo Liberati who won the first 2 races here in this series with Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. Of course, the after years then came Aldo Festante and Macy Blacksek, as well as Mateusz Lizowski for A&P Racing Team. Jan Lauritsen, of course, on the quest to becoming one of the main figureheads in this championship, was a winner here in 2021 as well. He would also return to win twice in 2023 with Q1 Track Racing. Alex Fontana, who is obviously a staple in the GT Open Championship, not here this weekend, of course. Usually partners Hash in the International GT Open, but Fontana, a phenomenal quality driver. I mean, absolutely sensational. Bashar Maldini and Christopher Zirkling, of course, winning back in 2022 as well for GDL when they went through the weekend as winners in both races. Q1 Track Racing, as I said, with Jan Lauritsen doing the same the following year. Jan winning both Race 1 and Race 2, and then last year, so Federico Aurafai, Matteo Levisi in 2024 Race 1, Xander Prisbalak and Lars Zanen in Race 2 last year as well. Still no confirmation yet, nothing for certain as to whether we will return to racing just yet. I'm sure there's many conversations being had at the moment. Like I said, we've got a pretty intense schedule here in Barcelona at the moment. So don't you worry, folks, we will keep you updated. But as you can see, the weather not abating at all, as you can see from our view as the camera is positioned looking down the circuit and with the luminous red flags. I mean, it's been a really dramatic twist. We haven't really had that much wet weather this season, Ewan, to be honest.
No, not that I've seen at all. And I've tried to be really optimistic, and I went for a little walk. On your images there, top left-hand side, that's where we're situated in the top left of that stand. I just walked out to the back to see if there was a gap or a chink of light anywhere in the sky. George, there isn't.
No, it's just a blanket of grey, isn't it, really?
It's every single direction right now, yeah. So we're looking at least, even if it's moving slowly, we can see a few miles, of course. You're looking at least sort of 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get this rain out the way, potentially. But we'll stick with you as long as we can. Of course, as George has mentioned a couple of times, the schedule doesn't really allow for half-an-hour delays. Of course, people much higher, more important than us, will make decisions on what happens next. And if we can't qualify, then, you know, there's a couple of situations where you decide who's been qualified, whether it's on free practice. What you're pointing at there, George?
You just see the safety car just going out for a bit of a test run, I think, just checking the surface to see whether they think it's doable for qualifying this morning. So hopefully they'll feed the report back to race control, and then we can get some advice as to what the plan is going forward. But at the moment, as we have already said, folks, qualifying is suspended for now. Next information will come very soon, so do sit tight. But it certainly hasn't deterred a number of spectators that are currently stood in the galleries just above the pit lane at the moment. I'm just looking at a few of them now that are just watching on and seeing everything unfold in the pit lane. Despite it not being busy on track, the teams are still there with their cars, prepared for anything at this point. No one returning to their garages at all. And obviously a few conversations being had at various parts of the pit lane, no less. And I'm just having a little peer out of our window and looking down at the grandstands. Obviously, the fortune for the spectators is that they do have cloud coverage with the obviously with the way the grandstand operates, with the big ceiling and the roof that appears over the top. It keeps the spectators nice and dry so they can watch everything unfold. But what are your thoughts, Ewan?
I mean, we had a chat about this yesterday, and everybody's been talking since we arrived on Friday, sort of midday-ish. The conversation was, it's going to be thundery on Sunday. Regardless, it was 27 degrees Friday, 28 degrees, beautiful sunshine yesterday. We all knew this was coming, but it's come a lot sooner than anyone anticipated. We were thinking sort of this morning, 10 o'clock, maybe even as late as midday. And when we drove to the circuit, couldn't really see this happening at all. It was great. We walked through the paddock less than maybe 45 minutes ago, and it was beautiful having chats with some of the drivers and people as we walked through. But this has kind of come from nowhere, and there was no real wind in the air either. So it's a big surprise. As we saw, the cars went out on slicks. They weren't anticipating that either. Yes, we did have the signal from the stewards to have wet track have the lights on, which we raised our eyebrows at, but fair play, they were absolutely bang on. Yeah,
no, they were spot on. I'm just looking now. They've got the safety car patrolling around Sector 3 at the moment, and they'll be climbing up through towards Turn 11. Now this time coming out of Turn 10, you just see there the pooling of the water. The thing is, certain parts of the track where you've got that little bit of elevation, just the water just drains off. But of course, it's got to go somewhere, and it ends up at the more, should we say, flatter surfaces, or maybe even at the lowest points before then you head uphill. So, you know, it's whilst of course you can mitigate certain areas on circuit, unfortunately it's got to go somewhere, and therefore it does pool up.
It has got much better. That the rain has not quite stopped, but it's been reduced dramatically. We can still see dripping out of our window, but that's coming off the top of the grandstand in front of us. Beyond that, I don't think it's raining too bad now. So the safety car, as the safety car comes down the start-finish line in front of us, there's a lot less water coming off the back of those rear tyres, which is a big improvement. But we'll wait and see. Obviously, safety is absolutely utmost, and there's no umbrellas now. Got a couple of fans coming towards the front of the grandstand where it would have been raining, but it's not now. So things are going in the right direction.
Humidity is rising at the moment as well. We're just at 89% right now as the rain continues to fall down. But the safety car continuing just getting a sort of an idea as to where we are weather-wise. The spray is still quite vast off the rear of the safety car at the moment. You can just see the pictures here as well with the pooling on the right-hand side of the curbs. Obviously, all the rainwater now stagnant on top of the surface of the circuit. The safety car just getting a reading of that. But just in terms of how the championship leaders are unfolding at the moment, I mentioned, of course, 91 points for Ian Rodriguez and Luca Franco, 3 wins so far this season. Of course, the first one coming at Portimao in race 1, Hockenheim race 1 at the same time, Paul Ricard race 2. Obviously, now coming into this second race of the weekend, teeing up the last 2 at Monza, of course. We've only got 3 races until the end of the season, which is unbelievable, folks. And we will be crowning a champion at Monza, no less, I'm sure. But this combination of Ian Rodriguez and Luca Franco has been nothing short of superb. I mean, Fime's team have been on fire this campaign with, of course, a driver like Ian Rodriguez, who has taken part in Italian GT championships, where he was twice a podium sitter in 2024, also nursing to get a 1 pole position. on that occasion. It was also part of the GT Cup Europe Championship last year, but has also raced in the European Le Mans Series over 2022 and 2023, Le Mans Cup, also taking part in the Formula Regional America's Championship, also in the Formula Regional European Championship back in 2020, taking a victory then. He was also a winner in the Americas as well. Indy Pro, also taking 2 podiums in Indy Pro back in 2019. That was Indy Pro 2000. Italian F4 in 2019. He also had 3 podiums in Italian F4 in 2018. And a win and 2 podiums then back in 2017 as well, and 2016 with a podium. Now, I can confirm at the moment, as you can see from your graphics, folks, Fastlane will be open at 9:10, so they do intend to get back running again. So that's now been pushed back to 9:12 now will be pit lane open, I should say. Fastlane open 9:10, pit lane open 9:12 local time. So by that reading, we're talking in the next 2 minutes that we will be back going again.
Cars already queuing at the end of the pit lane. Got about half a dozen down there. So very, very eager to get. Whether we get the full 16 minutes remaining, so it's 14:22 remaining on qualifying. That's the time we had. Whether we get all of that. At the moment, it looks like it, but that could be reduced because, you know, there's not a lot of time we can squeeze in there. We've probably lost all the time we can in this schedule already, and it's not even end of first qualifying for today's proceedings, but we shall see. And plenty more cars starting to queue up now. The safety car's done its job. It's put its reports back, and it says, yeah, I think we're probably good to go. And they will be very eager to get out on those wet tyres.
You certainly will. The safety car now parked up. And we do credit, of course, all the stewarding staff and the marshals and everybody that puts all the hard work in here around this track. And unfortunately for the marshals, I think they're going to have a busy day today with, obviously, conditions being the way they are. It's an immensely testing situation for every driver, no matter if you're a professional or if you're an amateur. You're both going to be getting a raw taste of wet weather driving here this morning. So we'll wait and see who's going to come out on top in this one. Fastlane now open, as we can now see from the board being presented, or it will be open shortly. And eventually the cars will be allowed to venture out onto the circuit. But as you can see, all at the end of the pit lane, as you so rightly said, Ewan. A few cars, though, still stood outside their garages at the moment, not feeling the need to go out too quickly. Of course, no sign of any movement just yet. Another car now started to move into position. And now green flags, and we're back underway here in qualifying 2. Looking to set the grid ahead of race 2 later on this afternoon. The rain's still coming down, but certainly not as heavy as it was before, as you can see on the dash of the cars now as they make their way forward. And the 44 of H. de Mello will be making his way in towards turn 1, coupled with Laura van den Hengel in the Burgers Motorsport car as well as they head down in towards turn 1. And then they'll be making the climb up through the first sector. But we're riding on board there with the car belonging to Stinas Longin and Nicholas Salins as they come through. Of course, Salins behind the wheel here in Pro-Am class. There's the 23. At the same time of Cosimo Papi, who hit the headlines yesterday in Am class, taking a victory this season as well, which is a fabulous effort on his part. Also going to pull together a decent string of results. And incidentally, that, I believe, is his first win of the season as well.
First podium of the season.
First podium and a first win. So what a way to get your first podium with a victory.
Absolutely. So cars making their way around. With the rain still a light drizzle coming down, it's unlikely we're going to get a sort of dry racing line. Even so, it would take a few laps or so of the entire field to get round. So we're not going to probably likely see the qualifying sort of pole lap time until the very closing lap of all of these cars.
That's if the rain continues to abate.
Absolutely, yeah.
It might come down again, and that might all be for naught.
I hate to say it, George, but right now, if you look out of our window, this is heavier rain than we've seen in the last 10 minutes. It's coming down worse than it was when it opened. Well, let's just wait and see. Fingers crossed. 4 tyres on the track all the way for the next 14 minutes, please.
Well, you hear the term dynamic weather used in sim racing a lot. Well, I think we've definitely got dynamic weather on here because it seems to be changing all the more every moment, and it's continuing to flurry downwards. It's going to be a huge mission now for the drivers to manage. The 43 making its way around the circuit as well of Riccardo Romagnoli, heading through the latter sector this time as well. Every car now chasing track position so they can at least lay down some of their better lap times. He's currently being met by Cosimo Papi, yesterday's AM race winner, now as they come through out of turn 13, down through towards turn 14 to kickstart their first runs. The 44 already flying down of H. de Mello through towards turn 1. So let's see who's going to be bravest on the brakes and manage these conditions the absolute best. Credit to every single driver taking to the circuit here this time and looking to give their very best here. And now the Abbey Motors car just looking for a little bit of clear room. And oh my goodness me, again, we've had the aggressive Team Italia car again go for a spin. Ivan Velasco behind the wheel of this one. I had a chat to him on Friday, and he mentioned to me back then that it was going to take some time before he gets used to the Lamborghini. Of course, both himself and Annie Frosio coming from Ferrari teams and moving into Lamborghini technology. Of course, Ivan Velasco, a two-time GT Cup Europe champion, reigning GT Cup Europe champion, and he took those titles, was the first driver to win back-to-back overall championships here in this series. It's great to see him back nonetheless.
I would be astonished but pleasantly surprised if we get through this next, 11 minutes now. Rain still coming down, and it's probably worse than when the safety car was out there and said, yeah, it's absolutely fine. But the real problem is now, as we've got in that image there, with all the cars going at exactly the same time, unless you're at the front, you have just got spray. So regardless of racing line, you have to get on the inside, on the outside, in the unlikely places, and least advantageous lines. Like, these cars will barely be able to see right now.
Well, I mean, we're watching Ian Rodriguez behind the wheel of this one, and he is a rapid driver, and certainly out of the two, obviously Luca Franca doing a sterling job all season long, and there's Ivan Velasco again having more problems, and currently stopped right at the top of turn 11, and there's another spinner as well on the way uphill. That's a Q1 track racing car, and I think that was a 53. Was that Goncalo Fernandez just going for a slight spin? Rescued it very well, though. It looks like Ivan Velasco is having problems getting that car restarted as we now watch as Laura van den Hengel comes down through towards the final corner. Pietro Armani enlists the first time, and just look at how the lap times are coming in. We're talking a 2:02 now, the fastest time that Ian Rodriguez has now posted. That's the fastest we've seen so far, and that is 3.6 seconds faster to fellow former single-seater driver Pietro Armani, and two more cars gone. That's the 54 this time around of Davide Roda and the 911 Porsche, and that is Dieter Schweppes. Of course, remember, they've already lost a car this weekend as we take a look at this. So Velasco finally gets his car restarted. There goes the LMR Motorsport car of Dieter Schweppes. Of course, arguably the more experienced car. And there was contact. My goodness, we didn't see that half of it. Of course, we saw the latter portion of the moment, and the red flag has been brought out by race control. No questions as to why. But Ian Rodriguez has laid down the fastest time so far, part of Silver Class, 2:02.360, 3.6 seconds quicker than Pietro Armani as the red flag gets brought out.
Now, only 7 cars have got, I'm going to put inverted brackets here, racing lap in there. So what happens now? Who knows? There'll be decisions made by stewarding whether we go to free practice or Qualy 1. A bizarre situation. I can't imagine we'd get back out now for this qualifying with another red flag. 9 minutes 30 to go. Again, rain still in the air, every single direction. George, in your experience, what happens now?
Well, I mean, they can only sit tight. This is a red flag scenario. They've got to come into the pits, so wait further instruction. Of course, we'll get further instruction as time goes on from race control, and we will update you guys, of course, the viewing public, of course, everyone around the globe that are tuning into the GT Cup Europe Championship. Of course, this is weather that we were expecting to hit us here today, but we didn't know when it was going to come or how hard it was going to hit us, but certainly we've had a good dose of it. I will say this, whilst it is coming down, it's not as heavy again. If anything, it's kind of abated again, so you never know. The car's now coming in. I mean, obviously it is still falling, but it was much heavier as soon as we went green, and then all of a sudden we go red, and then it ceases again, which is the strangest thing. But now in comes Franvel Bugliotti into the pits, and he will take a breather as well as he looks to stop outside of his garage, of course, in the AM class, and looking to scoop up yet more points here this time around. Of course, looking to further his own points tally this season. If we take a look at Franvel Bugliotti's season so far, has managed to rumble in 2 wins already this season. Took 4 points yesterday, currently sits on 30. level with Nathan Brauns and Nicholas van Dierendonck, who just pipped him to the higher result of second in class in AM yesterday. And it's now a shared levy of points going their way. And of course, both cars actually achieving 2 wins. Or should I say, 1 win going to 2 wins going to Franvel Bugliotti, 1 win, I do apologise, for Nathan Brauns and Nicholas van Dierendonck, but it is still very close between them. Dieter Streps and Leandro Martins, of course, still leading the championship. Qualy is now suspended, as you can see from the message below. Next information will come soon. We'll keep you updated, folks, and abreast of what's going on. As you can see, these things are dry for the spectators who are watching underneath the grandstands at the moment. The pit lane staff hard at work. You can see the GDL team just waving their cars in. And, of course, the photographers looking to run for cover as well at the same time to try and avoid the rainfall that is cascading down. And once again, the safety car put to work again. It looks like they're going to get more mileage than anybody out there today.
They might have the fastest qualifying time at this rate.
Probably. Absolutely. But you can never say there's a dull moment in the GT Cup Europe Championship. We've had many great moments this season. I mean, going back to the very start, of course, we saw the first victory for Ian Rodriguez, Luca Franca, but also we've had some tenacious young drivers coming in. Obviously, we mentioned the former single-seater drivers, Ludovico Longoni, Pietro Armani. Also, we've had Davide Larini join the grid, of course, son of former Formula One driver Nico Larini, and of course, Davide Larini, a race winner in the GT Cup Europe Championship for the first time yesterday, which is certainly quite something. Their second podium of the season as well. And of course, Larini, it's been a bit of a turbulent year. Started the season in a Ferrari, has now moved into Porsche machinery as well. So it's been a voyage of discovery for him, but has certainly found his feet, and we'll be hoping for yet more results to coincide with what he had yesterday. And with 3 races to go, anything is truly possible. But it's Ian Rodriguez, in accordance to our current times that we have listed at the moment. They could be on the cusp of achieving a pole position for this afternoon's race, depending on what's decided by race control, of course. Not all drivers got a chance at laying down a fast lap time, so I'm sure that'll be taken into consideration, but we'll wait and see as time draws on. But it's all part and parcel of this wonderful sport that we all know and love, of course. But generally, the form players at this circuit have been Q1 track racing. GDL also have taken a good sequence of wins. In fact, it's 4 wins for Q1 technically, if you include Q1 by EMG Motorsports win of Jan Lauritsen back in 2021. Well, GDL have also had their own share of 3 race wins with the names such as Alex Fontana, Bashar Mardini, Christopher Zirkling, and the combination of Federico El Rafai and Matteo Levisi. Of course, Levisi once again racing here in this series once more, always supported by his father, who I had the pleasure of bumping into again yesterday. I catch him at most racetracks now, in fact, which is great to see. And very strong support going Matteo Levisi's way here at this time. Pit lane, I can confirm, is going to be open 9:23 local time. So fast lane open, 9:23, folks. Pit lane now, I can tell you, is open 9:25. So 2 minutes after fast lane, as standard, just as we had it before. And the car's now queuing up at the end of the road.
Nathan Brauns has shot straight out from the garage to be front of the queue here. There was no waiting around whatsoever. They're all firing out of the garages, keen to get into that queue, because they're going to be one sort of out lap. They might get 1 or 2 more flying laps in before the rain comes. It's about getting 1 lap in, because right now, to repeat, we've only had 6, how many cars have we had? 7 cars only set an actual lap time, the best of which is a 2:02 compared to the sub-140s we had yesterday. It's going to be...
Well, they want to jump out now because it looks like it has stopped for the time being. So if you're going to chance it, now's the time if you want to get out there and lay down another lap time. The only one thing I will say, of course, I appreciate this is obviously the first track action we've experienced this morning here at Barcelona. A lot of the grip or the rubber that was laid down in yesterday's races, now a lot of it would have been washed away with the introduction of the rain here today. So that track is not going to be altogether that grippy. So it's all going to come down to these drivers here now, basically to lay down some kind of grip onto the track surface. But again, you know, the track isn't going to be getting any hotter. In fact, track temperature has been on a steady decline through the course of this morning. We're currently sat at 21.9 degrees, way off from where we were yesterday, where we were hitting the heights of 35 to 40 degrees. And obviously it all helps to get that Michelin rubber up to temperature. The humidity has risen again. We're now into the 90% now, folks, which shouldn't come as a surprise. And that air is going to be getting all the more thick, making it a little bit less aerodynamically friendly for our Porsches heading out onto the track.
Most significantly, qualifying time reduced to 4 minutes 30. So they're going to get the out lap and one racing lap in most likely, and that will be it done. So it is one chance only for all of our cars now. Over the next 4.5 minutes, the pit lane will open in 20... Has it been open? No, it's going to be open any second now.
Well, it's green flags.
Green flag, there we go. I knew it was close.
According to our screen here, green flags, and we are back again for qualifying 2.
So we will have out lap and one, I'm going to call it a flying lap, maybe a tiptoe lap. Just get any sort of time in regardless. It's going to currently jump you up into the top 10. So let's wait and see. Can they get round?
There we are. So we can now see session will last for 15 minutes. Due to force majeure, remaining time has been amended. Obviously, this is due to the weather conditions. Out of our hands. It's nature taking its course. So therefore, it has to be amended as required. Obviously, like I said, we do have a full billing of racing here at Barcelona today. And I'm sure that various other championships are going to be feeling the same pinch. Yeah, 33 minutes and 40 to take us to the checkered flag. So it's a one-chance saloon, really, to lay down a lap time.
And this is potentially a genius move by Braun's here, because he's going to be the only car on the grid with some clean air. So even if there are incidents behind him, potentially he could put himself on pole just by being first to jump the gun whilst in the garages.
Well, 3 minutes and 10 now on the clock. Rodriguez with the fastest time so far of a 2:02.360, 3.6 clear of Pietro Armani. Franvel Bugliotti currently on the second row alongside H. De Mello, 2 AM cars in the AM car class, ahead of Pro-Am's Laura van den Hengel and Nicolas Salins. Of course, Laura van den Hengel nursing in a time of a 2:09.640, 7.2 away from Ian Rodriguez right now, but ahead of fellow Pro-Am contender Nicolas Salins. Giancarlo Fernandez not getting quite the clear run he was probably looking for. He's currently sat down in 7th. Peter Furter, of course, in 8th as well, just ahead of yesterday's winner, Davide Lorini. As now the GDL Porsche of H. De Mello was currently 4th in the standing. Will now be looking to register his first flying lap. So it's all or nothing here, Ewan Dunlop. Who is going to rise to the top?
Yeah, one chance at it, and he's absolutely flown Nathan Braun's down the start-finish line. Every single car just trying to find a bit of a gap. So the issue is, if you're at the back of the grid and you're trying to find a gap, yes, they will make it round. There's some cars still at turn 6 and 7 on their out lap. So with 2 minutes, they're going to be absolutely fine, but they will get one chance at this. Let's see, can we go sub 2 minutes? We wouldn't be saying that yesterday as a good qualifying time, but the situation has dictated all of this, of course.
Well, it's got to be a management procedure as well as a journey to find pace. You can just see there, Nathan Braun's just trying to find the drier line. Ian Rodriguez finding 0.8 of a second inside the first sector alone. That's a 35.050, so there is improvements out on track. The rain has now started to thunder down again. So once more, the rain starting to fall, making things again a little bit tricky for the drivers. Peter Furter now shoots up to 10th quickest here and now. Davide Lorini, 35.7 inside the first sector. No one contesting with Ian Rodriguez in that first sector so far. Armani is currently 7 tenths down almost, as he finds, though, a 10th on his previous best time, or should I say against Rodriguez's time at the moment. It is a personal best regardless for Pietro Armani. In fact, every driver inside the top 9 managing to pull off personal best. Fabio Babini, the driver you really need in this scenario, of course, a veteran of this series, and at the same time has competed at the very heights of Le Mans. It's a purple middle sector again for Ian Rodriguez of a 47.505, and Franvel Bugliotti setting a 48 flat, and joined by H. De Mello, who is also set in a 48, but a 7.16. Here comes Rodriguez now, and the Fimes team, championship leader, leading the way with 91 points against their name at the moment, as now they fly down through the final couple of corners here at Montemelo. And Rodriguez now has got to find and dig deep to apply every ounce he can on a very damp surface. A yellow flag currently raised at the moment out on circuit, as now we see Rodriguez make his way towards the line. That's a 1:59.460. Nathan Braun second fastest, and now Fran Bugliotti goes into second fastest. Highest Am, H. de Mello into third fastest. Ricardo Romagnoli pops into fourth. Goncalo Fernandez looking strong as well on this particular lap, but not quite close enough to Rodriguez. Babini looking really quick, 4 tenths away as now the checkered flag comes out. It's Rodriguez still at the top of the shop, still quickest. H. de Mello remains there. Goncalo Fernandez up to fourth now. Babini into second. Brilliant lap from Fabio Babini, just a 2.00177, 7 tenths away from Rodriguez. And Rodriguez, because he crossed the line, within enough time, he can go again, and he's just gone purple in the first sector once more, Ewan.
I think there were, oh no, he's off, so that might draw a conclusion. I think actually there were about 5 or 6 cars who did manage to get across the line before the checkered flag came out, so they will get 2 bites at the cherry. However, with the yellow flag at turn 11,
that's Luciano Privitello, who has gone off there. He's currently down in 17th fastest, so that is really going to set him back down the order. So not great at all for yet another Lamborghini out on this field, but still Ian Rodriguez making his way around the circuit. Franvel Bugliotti also putting in a personal best as well. The car is still stranded there, the number 8, but Privitello managing to get it started again. Well done, that man. Getting the car back running again here in Q2. Rodriguez quickest again in the middle sector, finding more times. He could yet find himself in the 58s if he carries on, which would be astonishing. Of course, his last previous best, his current fastest time, a 1:59.460. As Privitello now makes his way through the final sector, and I'm sure he will look to come into the pits unless he's going to look to take the start-finish line to at least register something onto the board. Here comes now Ian Rodriguez to bring home one final lap and to once again confirm Fime's team on provisional pole, and it could yet soon become a reality of pole. It will certainly be that. A 1:59.182, not quite the 1:58 he was seeking. Franvel Bugliotti will remain in third fastest. Babini stays in second. Cosimo Papi in fourth. H. de Mello now in sixth. Romagnoli eighth, just ahead of Pietro Armani as well. That's great news for Fime's team at the top of the championship. Florentin Sescu with 2 personal bests for the R01 Porsche team. But it's going to be Fime's team. Ian Rodriguez, Luca Franca on pole once again in the GT Cup Europe Championship.
And significantly, an all-amateur row 2 and 3 behind the silver of Rodriguez and the Pro-Am of Fabio Babini. So congratulations to them. A few cars not getting a flying lap in. Privitello, of course, with that spin. Martinelli and Ivan Velasco not able to get a flyer in. And just one car, just Ian Rodriguez, the only car to go sub 2 minutes. In fact, Fabio Babini was the only other car to go sub 2:01. So what a qualifier.
It was a cracker. It's a first pole position this season as well for Ian Rodriguez and Luca Franca. Can you believe that? Our championship leaders, they will sit at the top of the tree for Fime's team. Ahead of Fabio Babini in second place. Highest Pro-Am, though, Franvel Bugliotti. Highest Am in third, ahead of Cosimo Papi, Nathan Braun and H. de Mello. Goncalo Fernandez in seventh, ahead of Ricardo Romagnoli. Then Pietro Armani down in ninth, and Dieter Schweppes in P10. We move further down to P11 for Davide Lorini, yesterday's race winner, ahead of Laura van den Hengel in 12th. Nicholas Salins 13th, ahead of Peter Furter and Florentin Sescu. Davide Roda ahead of Giacomo Gerbergia, and then Luciano Privitello, who had that spin right at the final sector. Matteo Martinelli in 19th place for the second Fime's team car, ahead of Ivan Velasco, the reigning champion. And then we head down to 21st place, Javier Ripoll Jr. not taking qualifying. But it's Fime's team on top. Fantastic effort from Ian Rodriguez, and a first pole coming at the most bizarrest of conditions. But he won't care. It all counts towards our second race coming up later on this afternoon, and they could yet again further their gap in the point standings if they can convert this pole here, Ewan, to a potential race win. But that is it from us here in Barcelona, folks. We thank you all for joining us under a very damp Barcelona. We'll see you this afternoon for the race.